I'm Winter. I happen to be a fairly known painter in the art community, and my husband is a big-shot lawyer, so there are ridiculously high chances of me being recognized. To avoid being recognized, I have to use fake names. Sorry about that, but both me and my husband really want to protect our privacy. I hope you guys won't mind. So I am Winter, and my husband is Damien. We met in college and are your typical college sweethearts. We belong to the opposite spectrums because he was studying law while I was into fine arts. We were both very accomplished in our own subjects and managed to make it fairly big in our own way. But Damien was more well known because his profession made much more money and headlines than me. I am a quiet painter and mostly do commission work now. Damien earns a lot more than me since he has a stable job while I work part-time. It's fun being a painter, though, because I don't have to leave home as much and work in an office. This also means that I'm an introvert and tend to keep a low profile. Apparently, that's what set off my mother-in-law, Sabrina, when I first met her. I knew I wouldn't like her. I already knew from Damien that she was a money-minded woman. I also knew how she had stolen all of Damien's inheritance from his dad and spent it on herself to buy a luxurious house. However, Damien had forgiven her for it, but for some reason it bothered me a lot. I couldn't believe that a mother would steal from her own son, so I was always a little skeptical about meeting her. When I finally met her, I found out that she was even more horrible than I thought. When she found out that I'm a painter, she looked at Damien and said, "Why on earth are you with the poor painter? You cannot be with her, Damien. She doesn't match our status." "Mom, don't say that. Winter is actually a very good painter and very accomplished for her age. Plus, I love her," Damien defended. "You can't be serious, Damien. A woman like her cannot be your wife." Sabrina tried hard to tell Damien that he should break up with me. I just sat there looking stunned as hell. I really didn't know what to do or how to react. Sabrina truly was a shallow lady, and that day I saw it with my own eyes. Ever since then, I kept my distance from her. Eventually, Damien and I got married. Sabrina threw a huge tantrum and tried everything to stop the wedding, but no one was on her side. She was exceptionally angry at me because she thought that I was taking her rich son away. These are her own words, guys. She called me a gold digger and said that I was marrying Damien for money. I guess she was scared that Damien would stop sending her money once he got married. Yes, he gave her a monthly allowance after she stopped working. Damien then cut her allowance a little after our marriage because he had just bought a house and he was making the mortgage payments. Sabrina didn't like that one bit. She screamed at me for being behind this and vowed revenge, and she did just that. Ever since Damien had cut off Sabrina's allowance, she did a lot of things to harm my reputation. She actually told all family members that I was a gold digger and was isolating Damien because I wanted all his money for myself. I got a lot of nasty texts from her and some family members as well. Damien shut them down, but refused to go low contact with his mother. This was a problem for me because she regularly showed up at the house to harass me. At that time, I was working on a commission piece and attempting to do a very difficult painting. My client had paid me $500,000, and it took me 3 full years to finish it. It was a highly detailed piece, so I was putting in a lot of effort to make it just like he wanted. Sabrina knew that I was busy and showed up regularly to interrupt me and harass me verbally. My husband told her off but didn't ban her from the house. That's why she had the courage to do what she did. One day when I was back from a shopping trip, I found Sabrina sitting in my living room and enjoying my wine. I ignored her and went to my room because I didn't want to give her any more attention than necessary. I went straight to my painting, which I had completed already. I had left it out to dry and wanted to check on it. When I went into my workroom, I saw that my painting had been hacked. It literally looked like someone had taken a knife and hacked it. Seeing years' worth of work in absolute ruin broke my heart. I couldn't believe my eyes, and I immediately started to cry. I already knew who had done it, but I didn't have the energy to confront her. Instead, I bawled my eyes out as I held my destroyed painting in my hands. Within a few moments, Sabrina entered the room looking super happy. Well, what do we have here? Oh, crying over a painting, I see. How sad for you, Winter. Shut up, Sabrina. I know you did it. You did it, didn't you? Why? I spent years creating this piece. Oops, I'm caught. Do you think I care, Winter? No, I don't. You deserve this. Sabrina was laughing at me while I cried. She was facing me while I was facing the door, so when Damien arrived at the door behind her, I saw him, but she didn't. I didn't give away the fact that Damien was home and was listening to what she was saying. Instead, I cried and said, "How could you do this, Sabrina? What have I done to deserve this?" "What have you done? Let me tell you what you've done, Winter. You took my son away, and because of you, he cut down on my allowance. Do you think I would forgive you for that? Absolutely not. This is what you deserve for stealing my rich lawyer son from me. You are the most delusional and greedy woman I have ever come across. I didn't take your son from you and make him give you a small allowance. He did it for his own reasons, but you are responsible for destroying my painting. You need to pay me the $500,000 that this painting was worth." Sabrina started to laugh at me and said that there was a fat chance I was getting any money from her. She was still laughing when my husband stepped into the room and asked what was going on. When I told him that Sabrina had destroyed the painting, Sabrina tried to play the victim and said, "Your wife is being mean to me, Damien. I thought it was an abandoned painting, so I just decided to have some fun with it. Now your wife is saying I did it on purpose. Yes, you did it on purpose, and you need to give me the $500,000 that it costs. How dare you try to scam me, Winter? That worthless thing can't cost that much. Besides, it was a mistake and I said sorry." "Damien, look at what your wife is saying. She really expects me to pay her $500,000 for that crap. You don't have to pay her $500,000, Mom. There's no reason to do that anymore." Sabrina looked elated when Damien said this to her. She was jumping with joy because she thought that her son was taking her side. She looked back at me and smirked while I cried my eyes out. I had been working on the painting forever, and Sabrina didn't even need to spend much time destroying it. All she did was hack it with a knife, and that was it. I was broken seeing my precious painting in ruins, but I was more heartbroken by what my husband said. I had expected Damien to take my side in this one instance, but he wasn't even doing that. I had a really hard time believing that my husband would still choose his mother over me now, but I didn't create a scene. I wanted to see what Damien was thinking, but Sabrina was over the moon. "That's my son, God. I was really starting to worry that your wife had turned you into someone else. I knew you would take my side. It was a small mistake, and Winter is throwing a tantrum over nothing. Look at her crying like the world is ending. I wonder why you married her in the first place. I married her because she is an amazing woman, and I love her more than anyone in this world. I know you love her, but you surely don't love her more than me, right? I did love you a lot, Mom, but I don't think I even have any respect for you anymore. You disgust me now." "What? What are you saying, Damien? You disgust me, Mom." "That's what I'm saying. You think I didn't hear what you told my wife. I know you destroyed her painting on purpose because you think she stole me from you." Sabrina looked shocked when Damien said that. I was also taken aback because I hadn't expected him to do this at all. I knew that my husband wasn't heartless and wouldn't ignore my emotions so easily. He was going to stand up for me once he knew the truth. He had apparently heard me cry and came to check on what was going on. I saw him stand behind the door and didn't say anything because I wanted him to see what his mother was like when he came in and sided with Sabrina. I was heartbroken, but I still held on to some hope. I was right to hope because my husband was doing something about Sabrina. My mother-in-law, on the other hand, was surprised and started to look really nervous. She said, "What? What are you talking about, Damien? I didn't do it on purpose." Do you think lying to your lawyer's son will be a good idea? I don't think so, Mom. I heard you say those words to my wife. You don't have to act all innocent because I know you are not. Okay, fine, Damien. I did it on purpose. I'm jealous of Winter because she has been taking up all your time. I don't like sharing you, Damien. What kind of messed up is that? Mom, you were jealous of my wife and ended up destroying something that she has been working hard on. How can you justify that? Why are you yelling at me, Damien? I'm sorry, okay? I don't even know why you're making such a fuss over a stupid painting. I can buy the same one for $5. You would say that because you're stupid and don't know anything about art. It doesn't matter how much the painting costs. What matters is that you have disrespected my wife and destroyed her handiwork. You have to pay for that. But you just said I don't have to pay for that, Damien. I said that you don't have to pay $500,000. I'm suing you for $1 million instead. The look of shock on Sabrina's face said it all. She hadn't expected Damien to say that. Instead of asking her to pay $500,000, my husband was actually informing her that he was suing her for $1 million. I was happy to see that my husband was finally taking a stand for me. He was going to punish his evil mother for what she did to me and make her pay what I owed. I know why he told Sabrina that he would sue her for $1 million, but I won't tell you guys. You can hear it from him. Sabrina was shaking with fear on hearing about a lawsuit of $1 million and said, "What? You will sue me? That too for $1 million. But why? Have you forgotten how you stole my inheritance from Dad and spent it to buy yourself a big house? I want that money back along with the cost of the artwork that you destroyed." What are you saying, Damien? That was a long time ago. Surely you wouldn't do that to me. You know I needed a house. No, you already had a house and didn't need one. You stole from me because you are nothing but a greedy, shallow woman. I will never forgive you for what you did, Mom. I'm done with you. I'm suing you for that money. No, son, don't do this to me. I made a mistake back then. What's done is done. Let's leave that in the past. I would have left it in the past, but I'm not going to do that. I need that money back now, Mom. If you hadn't messed with my wife because of your own jealousy and greed, I would have forgiven you for your mistake. But now that is not happening. Sabrina could see how angry Damien was. I had actually never seen Damien that angry, to be honest. He was like a raging volcano because of his mother. His past hurt and feelings of betrayal had come back in my mind. He wasn't going to let things go this time. He was finally doing something for me and himself. Sabrina knew that Damien was serious and she had messed up. She started to cry like a child while my tears were gone. I was smiling because I was proud of my husband. Sabrina cried and said, "Your mother made a mistake. Please, dear, forgive her. I really did something stupid. I deserve your anger, Damien. I accept that wholeheartedly. Please forgive me this time." I already told you, Mom, I won't be forgiving you anymore. I've had enough of your nonsense. I draw the line when you tried to hurt my wife, Damien replied firmly. I know I messed up, Damien. I'm really sorry. I swear this won't happen again. Look, I'll even apologize to your wife, Winter. Please forgive me. I made a mistake and I am sorry, Sabrina tried to say, hoping that Damien would calm down and make this go away. She was scared and wanted to calm down her son and de-escalate the situation. But for that, she needed my forgiveness. She had no one in her corner and turned to me for help. I don't know why she thought I would help her out. It was hilarious because she still expected me to forgive her and maybe help her get out of this mess. Well, I wasn't doing anything like that, I thought, instead looked surprised and angry and said, "There is no use trying to say sorry now, Sabrina. I will never forgive you. I tried my best to have a good relationship with you, but you intentionally hurt me because you were mad Damien had stopped spending so much money on you," I added. "I have realized my mistake, Winter. I swear I'm really sorry for what I've done. It was completely wrong, and I take accountability for that," Sabrina pleaded. "I know you're not truly sorry. The real reason you're begging for forgiveness is that you want to avoid the lawsuit. You don't want to pay up and lose your lifestyle. You deserve whatever is happening to you," I retorted. "Why are you being so cruel, Winter? I already said sorry. Maybe you are the greedy one since you're trying to scam me out of $500,000, Sabrina accused. "There is no way your painting is worth that much. In that case, why don't you let Damien sue you? That way you will find out exactly how much my painting costs once the courts evaluate it. I will support Damien in suing you anyway, Sabrina," I said firmly. At that point, Sabrina knew that no one was on her side. Now she was desperate for forgiveness and started to beg us both. Gone was her high-class attitude that she loved to throw in my face. Now she was groveling and trying to ask for forgiveness. She was willing to do anything to avoid paying money through the lawsuit, but the lawsuit wasn't her only problem now. What my husband said next absolutely blew her away. He said, "There is no use begging for mercy now, Mom. You made your bed and now you will have to lie in it. I'm done with you." "How can you do this, Damien? How can you threaten to sue your own mother?" Sabrina exclaimed. "I'm not threatening you, Mom. I'm telling you exactly what I will do. You are not a child that I need to threaten. If you do this, you'll lose me, Damien. We won't have a relationship anymore and I'll never forgive you," Sabrina pleaded. "Is that supposed to scare me, Mom? Because then you have clearly underestimated how angry I am. I'm sick of your behavior, Mom. For years you took advantage of me, and now you're bullying my wife. I will never forgive you for this, and I don't want a relationship with you anyway," Damien responded firmly. "What? You don't want me in your life?" Sabrina was shocked. "That's right, Mom. I don't want you in my life anymore. I know you only love me so much because of my money. Well, guess what, Mom? I won't be helping you out financially anymore. I'm cutting you off in all ways possible," Damien declared. Hearing this, Sabrina broke down in tears and started to cry hysterically. She said a lot of things through her tears. She told us how he was being unfair to her. She also told Damien that he was making a mistake by taking my side and abandoning her over a simple mistake. She even blamed me and said that I had poisoned my husband against her and that I was a gold digger who wanted to keep Damien away from his mother. It was hilarious watching Sabrina have a breakdown and throw a major tantrum. She cried and cried, but no one was listening to her. Damien was as stoic as I was. Instead of supporting his mother or comforting her as she cried, he came to me and wiped my tears with his handkerchief. I was really moved by this gesture and hugged him for taking my side. Sabrina, however, flew into a rage and tried to attack me. That's when Damien got between us and held her back. He was even more pissed now and threatened to call the cops on Sabrina if she didn't leave. He also told her never to show her face in our house again. Sabrina got scared after seeing Damien's anger and left as soon as she could. After Sabrina was gone, Damien sat me down and actually apologized for not standing up for me sooner. "I'm sorry, Winter. I have to take responsibility for what happened today. I've been a bad husband and didn't take your concerns seriously," he admitted. "It's okay, Damien. I can understand why you didn't want to lose your mother. I'm glad you stood up for me today. I can't believe my mom destroyed your painting, Winter. I'm so sorry for this. I know how much effort you gave to this piece. I feel awful. Don't worry, though. I will make Mom pay," Damien assured me. "Are you really sure about the lawsuit, Damien? Will you really go ahead with it?" I asked cautiously. "I meant every word I said, Winter. I will sue my mom, and I will cut her off in every way possible. I let her disrespect you for a long time, but now she has to pay for what she's done. I will protect you and cut her off because she doesn't deserve to be in our lives and take advantage of us anymore," Damien affirmed. I wasn't angry at my husband anymore. He came through for me and defended me against his evil mother. He was truly my hero now. I wasn't going to push him to actually go forward with the lawsuit because I knew it was hard to take your own mother to court. So I let my husband decide if he wanted to go through with it. To my surprise, he said that he would be suing Sabrina and cutting her off like he had said. I will be honest here, but that made me really happy. I was finally seeing some hope in getting rid of my evil mother-in-law, and thank God for helping me out. Damien and I talked about a lot of things in our marriage, and he apologized for not standing up for me sooner. Days passed, and Sabrina continued to contact us. She was too scared to show up at our house because Damien had threatened to call the cops on her, but that didn't stop her from harassing us over the phone. She called, texted, and even left voicemails. Sabrina also tried to get family members involved, but no one dared to go against Damien. Some of the elders were pretty mad at her for being so nasty to me and told her off for being such a horrible woman. I was enjoying hearing about these things from a cousin who was always on my side. Sabrina was trying hard to get our forgiveness and even asked me for mercy. She became truly unhinged when she was sent the court papers for the case. She amped up contact and finally showed up at our house, after which the cops came and removed her from our property. Sabrina did a lot of things, but I can't go into details about it. I'm pretty sure I could write a book on how hard she tried to make the lawsuit go away, but nothing worked because my husband was adamant about making her pay. The case went to court and the settlement was made. The final amount that Sabrina had to pay was well over $1 million. Anyway, Sabrina cried in court when the judge made his decision public. She knew that she would have to sell everything she owned just to pay the money from the lawsuit. Now that Damien was not giving her any money, she was back at work and didn't even manage to find a decent one. She doesn't earn much and works as a receptionist somewhere. The house she was so proud of had to be sold to make the debt payments. Damien and I profited a lot from the lawsuit in general. With that money, I tried to pay back my patron because I couldn't deliver the artwork as I had promised. To my great delight, he actually told me to keep the money and work on a separate piece. His wife loved my painting, so he gave me leeway because he really wanted to give her a custom painting from me. That really brought tears to my eyes because I had never thought that anyone would appreciate my art skills so much. I told Damien what happened, and even he said that he was super proud of me. So Sabrina was wrong in thinking that I would never match up to her level. Well, I showed her how much I was worth, and she finally got to pay for her bad actions. I'm happy to inform you guys that I am now living a Sabrina-free life, and I am much happier than before. Damien and I are also expecting our first child, so pray for us. Thanks for listening to my story, and I hope you all have a good life.
Jessica smiled sweetly, but I could hear the fake kindness in her voice. She waved a hand around my bedroom, that now looked like a pink and gold influencer's dream. Daniel said I could redecorate, something more fitting for a younger woman. I stood in the doorway, my stomach twisting. The soft green walls I had chosen were now bright pink. My vintage furniture was gone, replaced with flashy decorations. Even my family photos had been removed, replaced by Jessica's selfies. "You've been busy," I said calmly, "but I don't remember giving you permission to change my bedroom." Jessica smirked and stretched out on my bed, now covered in a glittery comforter. "Oh honey," she said smugly, "Daniel said you'd be moving to the guest room. We need the space, especially with the baby coming." I froze, but then I saw the look in her eyes. She was lying, trying to take over. I had seen women like her before. "The baby?" I asked, watching her carefully. "Well," she hesitated, "we're trying. Daniel wants to start fresh with someone who can actually give him a family." That was a low blow. She knew about my struggles. Daniel must have told her. The pain hit me, but I pushed it aside. I had more important things to deal with. "Interesting," I said, walking to the bookshelf. My books were gone, replaced by her makeup and social media awards. "Daniel loves what I've done. We're thinking of redoing the whole house. Something more modern, less old." She gave me a fake sympathetic look. I was 37, hardly old. But to her, at 23, I probably seemed ancient. She kept bragging. We're even making a TikTok room. Daniel supports my influencer career, unlike someone who was too busy with real estate. I smiled. My boring real estate job had taught me a lot, especially about contracts, property, and ownership. That's quite a plan, I said, stepping into the bathroom. Even here, Jessica had covered everything in pink crystals and makeup. Jessica leaned against the door. Daniel says this is my house now. No need for divorce papers or splitting property. You should just leave quietly. I turned to her, meeting her gaze. She really thought she had won. Actually, I said, pulling out a folder from my bag, we need to talk about something important. Jessica frowned. What's that? The property deed, I said, placing the papers on the counter. She grabbed them, her nails tapping against the pages. I don't understand. Daniel said the house was in his name. Daniel says a lot of things, I replied. But 2 years ago, when he was too busy to read what he was signing, he transferred the house to me. This house is mine. Her face turned pale. But he said. I'm sure he told you a lot. I continued, pulling out my phone. Like how he was separated, that I was cold and heartless. Did he also mention the private investigator I hired 6 months ago? Her eyes widened. What? Or the hidden cameras? I swiped through photos. The ones that caught you sneaking in, trying on my clothes. That's not, she stammered, stepping back. And I bet he didn't tell you about his grandmother's trust fund. The one that says if he cheats, he loses everything. I smiled. That fund is worth way more than his medical practice. Jessica sank onto the bed, her confidence fading. He said you just leave, she whispered. I picked up my papers. Well, here's what's actually going to happen. The next morning, I sat in my lawyer's office watching Jessica's latest TikTok livestream on my phone. She was tearfully explaining to her followers how she'd been deceived and manipulated by an older man who promised her the world. Funny how quickly her story changed when she realized she wasn't getting my house. Everything's in order, Amanda, my lawyer, said as she organized the final documents. The cease and desist has been delivered to both Jessica and Daniel. She has 24 hours to remove her belongings from your property, and he's been formally notified of the trust violation investigation. I smiled, thinking about how Daniel had stormed into the house last night after Jessica called him crying. His face had turned an interesting shade of purple when I played the security footage of him promising her my house. How dare you, he shouted. You set me up. No, Daniel, I'd replied calmly. I protected myself. There's a difference. Now, watching Jessica's dramatic social media meltdown, I felt oddly peaceful. The last 6 months of gathering evidence, staying quiet, and planning my response had paid off perfectly. His grandmother's trust executor is reviewing the evidence, Amanda continued. Given the extensive documentation we provided, they'll likely begin the forfeiture process within the week. I nodded, remembering the day I'd discovered the trust's adultery clause. It had been purely accidental. I was helping Daniel organize old family papers when I found it. He'd never bothered to read the fine print, too busy building his reputation as a brilliant surgeon to care about legal details. My phone buzzed with a text from Daniel. You've ruined everything. I hope you're happy. I shoved it to Amanda, who rolled her eyes. He still doesn't get it, does he? He ruined everything himself. You just made sure you were protected. Speaking of protection, I said, what about the house renovations? Amanda grinned. Already handled. I've sent invoices for all damage and unauthorized changes to both of them. The pink paint, the removed fixtures, even the stick-on crystals in the bathroom. They're legally responsible for returning the property to its original condition. My phone buzzed again, this time with a call from Daniel's mother, Eleanor. I've been expecting this. I put the phone on speaker. What have you done? Eleanor demanded without preamble. Daniel is devastated. That trust was his inheritance. Hello, Eleanor. I replied calmly. Yes, it was his inheritance. Right up until he decided to move his mistress into my house. She's young, she made a mistake. And Daniel? Well, men have needs. Men have needs. I repeated, sharing a knowing look with Amanda. Does that include the need to give away houses they don't own? Eleanor sputtered. He built that house. No, Eleanor. He paid for half of it. I paid for the other half, and then 2 years ago he signed full ownership over to me. Would you like me to send you the documentation? There was a long pause. Eleanor had always respected paperwork and proper documentation. It was one of the few things we had in common. Send it, she said finally. And the trust documents too. After I hung up, Amanda handed me another folder. The property restoration company can start next week. They'll remove all of Jessica's changes and return everything to its original state. Actually, I said, thinking about the garish pink walls and tacky decorations, I might want to make some changes of my own. It's time for a fresh start. Amanda smiled. That's what I like to hear. Oh, and one more thing. She pulled out her phone, showing me Jessica's latest social media post. The young woman was tearfully packing up her influencer awards, her makeup streaked dramatically down her face. Guess she's not getting that TikTok room after all, I mused. Just then, my phone lit up with a text from Jessica herself. I'm sorry. I didn't know about the trust or the house. Daniel told me you were already separated. I showed the message to Amanda. Should I respond? Actually, Amanda said, using my favorite word of the week, I have a better idea. I raised an eyebrow, intrigued. Amanda had been my lawyer for 5 years, and she'd never steered me wrong. The trust executor wants to interview everyone involved, she explained, including Jessica. Maybe it's time she learned exactly what else Daniel has been hiding. I thought about the other evidence I'd gathered, the messages to other women, the secret accounts, the pattern of manipulation that stretched back years before Jessica entered the picture. You know, I said, that actually sounds perfect. As I left Amanda's office, I felt lighter than I had in months. The house was mine, the trust was being investigated, and Daniel's carefully constructed world of lies was crumbling around him. My phone buzzed one last time, another message from Daniel. We need to talk. Please, I made a mistake. I looked at the message for a long moment, thinking about all the years I'd spent trying to be the perfect wife, supporting his career, maintaining our beautiful home, and believing his excuses about late-night surgeries and emergency consultations. Actually, I typed back, we don't. Then I blocked his number and drove home to my house. My pink-walled, crystal-covered house that would soon be transformed into something new. Something that was completely, entirely mine. The renovation company would arrive tomorrow, but tonight I had some packing to do, starting with removing every trace of Daniel and his mistress from my bedroom. 3 months later, I stood in my completely renovated master bedroom, admiring the transformation. The garish pink walls had been replaced with a serene blue-gray. My vintage vanity was back in its rightful place, and new family photos, featuring just me and my closest friends, adorned the walls. The doorbell rang, and I found Eleanor standing on my porch. Her usual polished appearance was slightly disheveled, and she clutched a thick envelope in her hands. Can I come in? She asked, her voice lacking its usual commanding tone. There are some things you should know. I led her to the kitchen, also beautifully renovated, and poured 2 cups of coffee. Eleanor looked around, taking in the changes. The house looks lovely, she said quietly. Very, you. Thank you, I replied, sitting across from her. What brings you here? She placed the envelope on the table. The trust executor finished the investigation. Daniel, she paused, collecting herself. Daniel lost everything, not just the trust, but his reputation at the hospital too. Apparently he was falsifying records to meet with women. I wasn't surprised. The private investigator had uncovered multiple affairs, all carefully hidden behind fake patient consultations. Jessica spoke to the executor, Eleanor continued. Told them everything. She wasn't the first, you know. Just the boldest. I know, I said softly, thinking of all the evidence I'd gathered. Why didn't you tell me? Eleanor asked, her eyes filling with tears. All these years you must have suspected. Would you have believed me? I asked gently, over your perfect son? She looked down at her coffee, shoulders slumping. No, she admitted. I wouldn't have. I'm sorry. The apology hung in the air between us, bridging years of subtle criticism and dismissal. Daniel's moving to Chicago, she said finally. The only hospital that would hire him after everything. Jessica's social media posts about being manipulated by a prominent doctor went viral. His colleagues saw them. I tried to feel something, satisfaction, maybe, or vindication. Instead, I just felt peace. What will you do now? Eleanor asked, looking around at my renovated home. Actually, I said, smiling at my favorite word, I'm starting a consulting firm, helping women protect their assets and document suspicious behavior. Turns out there's quite a demand. Eleanor nodded slowly. Yes, I suppose there would be. She stood up, straightening her jacket. I should go, but could I come by next week? Maybe help you hang some new pictures? I thought about it for a moment. Eleanor had never been the warmest mother-in-law, but she was trying now. Maybe that deserved something. I'd like that, I said. After she left, I walked through my house, my beautifully renovated, peaceful house. The TikTok room was now a home office where I met with clients, helping them gather evidence and protect themselves just as I had done. My phone buzzed with a text from Amanda. Just saw Daniel's mistress's new video. She's warning women about manipulative older men and promoting a legal advice podcast. Guess she learned something after all. I smiled, remembering Jessica's face when she learned the full truth about Daniel. She'd been a pawn in his game just like I had been once. The difference was, I'd learned to play the game better. Another text came through, this time from a potential client. I found lipstick on my husband's collar. Can you help me? Actually, I typed back, that's exactly what I do. Later that evening, as I got ready for bed in my beautiful restored master bathroom, I caught my reflection in the mirror. I looked younger, somehow lighter. The weight of Daniel's lies and Jessica's invasion had lifted, leaving me stronger and wiser. My phone lit up one last time, an email from Daniel's new hospital in Chicago. Regarding your documentation of Dr. Daniel Mitchell's misconduct. I smiled, marking it as read without opening it. Daniel's new life wasn't my concern anymore. I had my own life to focus on, my own success to build. As I climbed into my bed, now covered in elegant charcoal gray linens instead of tacky sequins, I thought about how different things were from that day 3 months ago when I found Jessica redecorating my bedroom. She had thought she was claiming her territory, marking her place in my life. Instead, she had given me the push I needed to reclaim everything, my home, my peace, and my future. Actually, I whispered to myself, smiling at the word that had started it all. This is exactly where I'm supposed to be. And for the first time in years, that was completely, undeniably true. The end. I stood frozen at my kitchen window, watching in shock as my sister-in-law, Amanda, destroyed the garden I had cared for over 5 years. She stomped on my special roses with her fancy boots and ripped out the wisteria vines that had been there for over 100 years. This ugly garden has to go, she called out happily to someone I couldn't see. Michael says a modern design will help sell the house faster. My hands shook as I gripped my phone, recording everything. The morning sun made every act of destruction clear as she tore through the plants, ripping out pieces of history. My name is Olivia, and at 35, I was watching my husband's sister destroy not just my garden, but my family's heritage. This 1880s Victorian home had belonged to my family for 4 generations. Every plant had a story. My great-grandmother had planted the roses. The herb garden followed designs from her old journals. The wisteria pergola had been the backdrop for generations of family weddings, including mine just 6 years ago. I had worked hard to restore the garden, even earning recognition from the local historical society. But now, Amanda was tearing it all apart, and I knew why. This place will be worth more with a new look, she shouted. We can put in a rock garden, maybe a fire pit. That's what buyers want. Then I heard my husband, Michael. Just get it done fast, Amanda. I want the house ready to sell by next week. Of course he was in on it. 3 months ago, he told me he wanted a divorce. What he really meant was that he wanted to start over with his 25-year-old personal trainer. I had refused to sell the house. It had been in my family too long. Since then, Michael had been pushing me, complaining about maintenance and costs. When I still wouldn't agree, he moved out but kept his key. I should have changed the locks. A loud cracking sound snapped me back. Amanda was smashing the pergola with a crowbar. Be careful, Michael warned. We don't want injuries. I almost laughed. He cared about Amanda's safety, but not about destroying history. But I wasn't worried. I had planned ahead. 2 months ago, when Michael started talking about selling, I contacted the Historical Society. Thanks to my restoration work, the garden was already in their records, but I took it further. With their help, I got the house and garden protected as historical landmarks. That protection order was finalized last week. Michael and Amanda didn't know yet. They were too busy destroying things to notice the official letter on the kitchen counter still unopened. I kept recording as Amanda kicked over my herb garden. "This is better than therapy," she laughed. "You should have left her years ago, Michael. Who cares about dead plants and old memories?" Michael didn't respond, but I saw him shift uncomfortably. He never understood my love for this place. To him, it was just a house to sell. This garden had survived wars, economic crises, and storms. It wasn't going to be erased so easily. My phone buzzed. A text from Eleanor, the head of the Historical Society. "Got your message. Police and preservation officer on their way. Hold tight." I smiled and kept filming as Amanda dragged her crowbar toward the old stone wall. "This ugly wall has to go too," she said, raising the tool. Then I heard sirens. Michael and Amanda froze, finally noticing me at the window. I waved and held up my phone, showing them I had recorded everything. "What did you do?" Michael demanded as police cars arrived. I picked up the unopened letter from the counter, the Historical Society's seal clearly visible. "I protected what's mine," I said calmly, stepping outside to greet the officers. Amanda's face, when she realized she had just destroyed a protected historical site on camera, was almost worth the pain of watching my garden get torn apart. Almost. The next few hours unfolded like a carefully choreographed dance. Police officers photographed the damage while the preservation official, Dr. Marcus Chen, documented every destroyed plant and structure. Amanda's crowbar was bagged as evidence, her designer boots now muddy and ruined as she stood sullenly by the patrol car. "This wisteria was over 100 years old," Dr. Chen said, examining the torn vines. "The variety isn't even available anymore. This is a significant loss to our historical botanical record." Michael paced by the gate, running his hands through his hair. "This is ridiculous," he protested. "It's just a garden. I'm a co-owner of this property. I have the right to make improvements." Actually, Eleanor from the Historical Society stepped forward. "You don't. This entire property, including the gardens, received protected status last week. Any alterations require approval from the Preservation Board." She held up a thick folder. "The documentation shows these gardens are a living museum of Victorian horticultural practices." I watched as the reality of their situation slowly dawned on my husband and his sister. The smug superiority that had fueled their destruction crumbled under the weight of official documentation and legal consequences. "You can't be serious," Amanda scoffed, but her voice wavered. "They're just plants." These just plants represent one of the best preserved examples of 19th century garden design in the state, Eleanor continued. "Mrs. Harrison's restoration work has been featured in historical journals. The property's protected status means any willful destruction is a criminal offense." I saw Michael's face pale as a detective approached him. This wasn't going according to his plan. He'd expected to bully me into selling, clear the property, and walk away with a quick profit. Instead, he was facing criminal charges and hefty restoration fines. "The Historical Society will be pressing charges," Eleanor announced, her voice firm. "The documented damage to protected historical features is extensive. We'll need a full assessment to determine the restoration costs." Amanda burst into tears, her usual manipulation tactic. "I was just trying to help my brother. Olivia's being spiteful, trying to ruin our lives over some stupid flowers." But her tears held no power here. The preservation officer continued photographing the destruction, focusing on the damaged pergola and the heritage roses that had been trampled beyond recovery. "These roses," I said quietly, "were featured in the Botanical Register of 1837. The original plants came over from England with my great-grandmother. They survived 2 world wars, the Great Depression, and countless storms." I turned to Michael. "But they couldn't survive your selfishness." A police officer approached with forms detailing the charges: willful destruction of protected historical property, trespassing, vandalism. Michael's hands shook as he read through them. "Olivia," he pleaded, "we can work this out. I'll replant everything. We can fix this." I shook my head. "Some things can't be fixed, Michael. Like trust, once these plants are destroyed, you can't just replace them. They're gone forever." Eleanor placed a comforting hand on my shoulder before addressing the officers. "We'll need to document everything for the restoration assessment. Some of these plant varieties are irreplaceable. We'll have to source similar heritage specimens from botanical gardens. As if to emphasize the magnitude of loss, a piece of the damaged pergola crashed to the ground, its century-old wood splintering on impact. Amanda jumped at the sound, kindly seeming to grasp the seriousness of what she'd done. The preliminary estimate for damages, Dr. Chen announced, reviewing his notes, is approaching 6 figures. The Historical Society will require full restoration using period-appropriate materials and methods. Michael's face went from pale to ashen. 6 figures? That's impossible. The pergola alone is a registered historical structure, Eleanor explained. It requires specialized craftsmen to rebuild using Victorian techniques. The botanical specimens, particularly the lost heritage varieties, are practically priceless. I watched as the officers led Amanda to their car for formal questioning. She'd stopped crying, replaced by a shocked silence as reality set in. Her attempt to help her brother divorce me had instead landed them both in serious legal trouble. Michael tried one last time to regain control. "I'll fight this," he threatened. "You can't prove we knew about the protection order." "The letter's right here," I said calmly, holding up the unopened envelope. "Delivered yesterday. Your choice not to read it doesn't change its legal standing. Besides," I gestured to my phone, "I have video of everything, including Amanda's comments about intentionally destroying the garden to force a sale." The detective took my phone as evidence, nodding as I described the morning's events. Each piece of documentation, from the Historical Society's records to my video, formed an airtight case against them. Standing in my devastated garden, surrounded by the destruction of my family's legacy, I felt strangely peaceful. Michael and Amanda had tried to erase my history, but in doing so, they'd only ensured their own downfall. 6 months after that devastating morning, I stood in my garden watching as restoration experts carefully replanted heritage rose specimens. The Historical Society had helped source them from botanical gardens across the country, each one chosen to match the destroyed varieties as closely as possible. The pergola had been masterfully rebuilt by a craftsman specializing in Victorian structures, using traditional techniques and materials. It wasn't the same one that had hosted a century of family celebrations, but it carried forward the same historical significance. Michael and Amanda's legal troubles piled up fast. Destroying protected historical property was a serious crime, and they were facing huge fines. The restoration costs, nearly $300,000, forced Michael to sell his investments and Amanda to take out a big loan. Their plan had backfired. Instead of making money, Michael was going bankrupt. His new girlfriend left as soon as the financial trouble started. "The herb garden now matches your great-grandmother's original design perfectly," Eleanor said, standing beside me at the restored stone wall. "The Historical Society loves how authentic it looks." I nodded, watching workers carefully plant the herbs in their proper places. It's different but the same, like me. Losing my garden had changed me, but not in the way Michael and Amanda had hoped. Instead of breaking me, it made me stronger. My work on the restoration gained attention from historical preservation groups across the country. I was invited to speak at conferences and had even started helping others restore their gardens. "You've turned this into something incredible," Eleanor said. "Your documentation will help protect other historical gardens in the future." She was right. I had recorded every step of the process, creating a valuable resource for others. My great-grandmother's gardening journals, once just family keepsakes, were now part of a larger historical record. Amanda had tried to contact me several times, at first angry, then apologetic as she realized the full consequences of her actions. I ignored her calls. Some things, once ruined, can't be repaired. Michael's divorce plan had also failed. The judge did not look kindly on someone who tried to force the sale of a protected historical site, especially after destroying part of it. "The garden tours can start again next month," I told Eleanor. "The new plants should be ready by then." The monthly tours had been paused during the restoration. Starting them again felt like a fresh beginning, not just for the garden, but for me. "Oh, there's something else you should see," Eleanor said with a smile, handing me an envelope. Inside was an official letter. My property had been added to the National Register of Historic Places. Because of everything that happened, the garden had become even more important. "Your great-grandmother would be proud," Eleanor said softly. "You didn't just save her legacy, you made it even stronger." Looking around at the restored garden, I felt at peace. The roses were new, but they carried the same history as the old ones. The herb garden followed the same careful layout. Life, like a garden, is about growth. Sometimes destruction clears the way for something stronger. Michael and Amanda had tried to erase my past, but instead, they made it permanent. I noticed butterflies fluttering among the new flowers. Nature doesn't dwell on loss. It focuses on what's growing. I decided to do the same. Time to plant, I said, picking up my tools. The Historical Society had approved a new section in the garden to tell its restoration story. Future visitors would learn not just about Victorian gardening, but about the importance of protecting history. As I knelt in the soil, continuing the work my great-grandmother started over a century ago, I felt grateful, even for the destruction. It had shown me my own strength. Some things, once broken, come back even stronger. My garden was proof of that. And so was I,